Have you ever wondered why the people who constantly push your boundaries and make you feel wronged only seem to behave that way toward you? What if I told you that you're the one who gave them the power to keep overstepping? Would you think I'm just talking nonsense? Well, you heard me right. It's not that others are too cruel. It's that you unknowingly gave them permission to cross the line, and you didn't even realize it. In today's video, I'm going to peel back the layers and uncover the true source of your pain. Don't worry, I'm not here to give you any feel-good but useless inspirational quotes, and I won't be teaching you how to fight back. We're going to do something much deeper and way cooler. Reclaim the power that was always yours, that I will guide you beyond surface-level emotions and lead you through 6 progressively deeper perspectives to uncover a truth we often overlook. That many times, we are the ones who hand others the permission to hurt us, essentially saying, "Go ahead, hurt me." These 6 perspectives will serve as 6 precise surgical scalpels, helping you dissect the suffocating and disempowering patterns in your intimate relationships, workplace, and family. You won't just understand why I'm always the one who gets hurt. You'll also gain a set of inner principles to fundamentally rewrite the script of your relationships from the ground up. Let's take a look at these 6 points. 1. What you're giving isn't love. It's a debt born from your need to be loved. Many of us, especially those who were taught to be considerate and thoughtful, have fallen into a beautiful trap called selfless devotion. We often think this is the highest form of love, but the truth is, the more selfless you are, the more selfish the other person becomes. I want to tell you a story about a girl named Grace. She could be you or a friend you know. Grace is the quintessential giver personality. In her intimate relationships, she's like a tireless son. When her boyfriend works late, she times everything perfectly and brings him a hot meal to his office, even if she has to wake up early the next day. When he mentions liking a pair of limited edition sneakers, she mobilizes all her friends and pays a premium just to see the look of surprise on his face. She takes on nearly all the housework, telling herself, "He works so hard. Doing a bit more is the least I can do." All her friends said she was amazing, a perfect girlfriend. But behind that perfection was Lin Jing's relentless suppression of her own needs. She loved painting, but her easel had long since gathered dust because she spent all her free time taking care of her boyfriend. When she wasn't feeling well and wanted him to go to the hospital with her, the words were on the tip of her tongue, but she swallowed them. He had plans to play video games with his friends that day, and she didn't want to make things difficult for him. She believed that her devotion would be met with the same level of love and appreciation. But reality hit her hard. Her boyfriend began to take her kindness for granted. When she brought him food, he wouldn't even look up from his game and would just say, "Just leave it there." When he received an expensive gift, he'd say, "It's okay, but the color's a bit off." If the floor wasn't mopped perfectly, he'd frown and complain, "Why are you getting lazier and lazier?" The final straw that broke the camel's back came on Grace's birthday. She had been looking forward to it with joy, thinking he would at least remember. But not only did he completely forget, he also ditched her the moment he got a call from a friend and went out drinking. Lin Jing sat alone in the empty room, staring at the cake she had bought for herself, and for the first time, she asked, "Why?" When she confronted him, his response was, "Haven't I treated you well? I've tried to give you everything you wanted. Why are you being so petty? It's just a birthday." How ironic. In his eyes, everything she had done wasn't something to be appreciated. It had become the bare minimum, something she was simply expected to do that as soon as she starts asking for even a little emotional support. She's labeled as petty or immature. Grace's tragedy doesn't lie in loving too much, but in confusing the fundamental difference between giving and exchanging. In psychology, there's a concept known as the implicit contract. Every time Grace makes a seemingly selfless sacrifice, deep down she carries an unspoken expectation. "I've done so much for you, so you should love me more, care about me more, and value me more." Instead of directly expressing her needs, she tries to buy the other person's love and attention through excessive giving in a roundabout way. What she offers isn't pure love, but a series of emotional investments made with the hope of getting something in return. But the problem is, this agreement exists only in her own mind. From his perspective, he's simply and passively accepting your kindness. Over time, he develops a kind of dependency. She'll handle everything anyway, so I don't need to do anything. Your efforts not only fail to teach him how to love you, but instead perfectly train him to enjoy your service. You've essentially taken away his chance, and even his awareness, of giving back to you. 1. So, the first truth we need to face is this. Stop using a saintly heart to engage in emotional bribery. Your kindness is incredibly valuable. It should never be a bargaining chip to earn love. Instead, it should be a reward you offer, after setting clear boundaries, to those who respect and truly value you. True love begins with clearly expressing your needs, not with silently overgiving, and then waiting for the other person to have a change of heart. Human nature is such that we rarely value what comes too easily. It's you who, through seemingly selfless acts, gradually gives the other person permission to ignore you without guilt. 2. Fear of conflict disguised as a desire for peace. Many people say, the reason I keep giving in is because I don't want to argue. I value this relationship. I want harmony. Sounds noble, doesn't it? But we need to burst that bubble. What you're really afraid of isn't conflict itself, but the possibility of being abandoned because of it, that you're not maintaining peace, just a seemingly intact, fragile shell on the verge of collapse. John is known around the office as the nice guy. Whenever someone had too much work and called out, "John, can you help me out?" he would always put down what he was doing and take it on with a cheerful smile. At first, everyone was grateful. They'd bring him a cup of coffee or say thank you. But over time, things started to change. His help became expected, and not helping was seen as a fault. One time, a colleague dropped a report on John's desk an hour before the end of the day, a report they were supposed to finish themselves, and said, "I don't have time for this. You handle it. The boss needs it tomorrow." The tone wasn't a request, it was a command. That night, John actually had something very important going on with his family, and he was deeply reluctant that he wanted to say no. He wanted to say, "This is your job. You should be responsible for it yourself." But the words kept getting stuck in his throat, and what finally came out was, "All right, no problem." Why didn't he dare to say no? I had a deep conversation with him later. He said he was afraid. He was afraid that if he refused, that colleague would get angry, talk behind his back, and try to turn others against him. He was afraid he'd be the one to ruin the harmonious atmosphere in the office. He was afraid others would see him as difficult or petty. To preserve this superficial peace, he was willing to work through the night, even if it meant breaking promises to his family. And the result? His kindness didn't earn him respect. It only led to more unreasonable demands. His workload kept growing, and he took on more and more responsibilities, but the credit always went to someone else. During year-end evaluations, he was always the one overlooked. To his boss and colleagues, everything he did was simply part of being helpful, not a meaningful contribution, worthy of recognition. Through his constant willingness to step back, he perfectly taught everyone one thing. His time and energy were free and endlessly available. John's story exposes a harsh, unspoken rule of the workplace, and even of human relationships. The more you fear conflict, the more likely you are to be pulled into it. But it's not an open, fair debate. It's a silent form of slow execution, where you alone are drained and exploited. Psychologist Harriet Breaker, in her book The Disease to Please, noted that people-pleasers often hold a core belief. Conflict is dangerous and must be avoided at all costs. This belief frequently stems from early life experiences. Perhaps in your family of origin, expressing a different opinion led to punishment, or voicing your needs got you labeled as selfish. So you learned to suppress yourself, trading compliance for a sense of safety. But in the adult world, the rules of the game have changed. Boundaries are defined and strengthened precisely through repeated instances of healthy conflict. Every time you say no with calm firmness, every time you clearly state "this is my boundary," you're not starting a war. You're conducting a necessary survey of your personal territory, that you're telling the other person where your world ends and where theirs begins. Someone who doesn't dare to say no isn't seen as a good person by others, but rather as someone who lacks boundaries, a person whose territory can be violated at will without consequence. Your act of giving in is like planting a white flag on your own land that says, "Welcome to occupy, no cost required." 2. So, the second mindset you need to develop is this: embrace healthy conflict and view it as the immune system of a relationship. It may be painful and uncomfortable, but it helps you recognize and eliminate harmful, unbalanced patterns of interaction. That a truly healthy relationship isn't one without arguments, but one where both people know how to argue constructively, where they can still recognize and respect each other's boundaries, even in the midst of conflict. It is your fear of conflict that has given the other person the power to trample over your boundaries without restraint. 3. Your sense of morality has become the prison that traps you. We just talked about the fear of conflict, but there's another situation that's more subtle and even more damaging. It's not that you're scared, it's that you're unwilling. Deep down, you cling to the belief that you must be a good person, kind, generous, and noble. It reminds me of the book Memories of Matsuko. Matsuko's entire life was tightly bound by the chains of her good person identity. She longed for love and recognition. To make her father smile, she learned to make funny faces. To protect a student who had stolen money, she took the blame herself and lost her job as a teacher. Every man she met, no matter how much they hit her, betrayed her, or exploited her, she chose to forgive them and give unconditionally. Why did she do this? Because in her mind, being loved meant being useful and obedient. She couldn't lose her temper, couldn't complain, and couldn't say no, because the moment she did, she would no longer be the good girl who deserved love. Being a good person was her only bargaining chip for feeling secure in relationships. One particular scene struck me deeply. Her writer boyfriend was broke, his talent depleted, and the only way he could vent his frustration was by hitting her. One time, after beating her again, he threw himself onto the train tracks in despair and committed suicide. Instead of feeling relieved, Matsuko was devastated. Later, because she lacked boundaries, she kept running into awful people. In the end, Matsuko was beaten to death in a park by a group of young men. You see, for her, even a violent and destructive relationship is better than feeling unwanted or alone. Because in every relationship, she can at least assume the role of the resilient, tolerant, and unwavering saintly woman. That role gives her a sense of worth. She uses her bruises and scars to uphold the fragile illusion of, "I am a good woman." Matsuko's tragedy is an extreme yet profound warning. It shows us that when you base your self-worth entirely on others' approval and how well you perform your role, you hand over the ultimate power to define and control you. This shackle of being a good person is known in psychology as the identity trap. Each of us has an idealized self-image, our ideal self. For many people, this image includes being kind, generous, and understanding. To maintain this image, we often unconsciously suppress genuine emotions that don't align with it, such as anger, disappointment, or boredom. When someone takes advantage of you, you may feel clearly upset inside, but your good person identity steps in and says, "Don't make a fuss. You'll seem petty." When someone makes an unreasonable request, you may really want to say no, but your good person identity tells you, "Just help them out, be nice." Your true feelings get sacrificed again and again in these repeated moments of moral self-censorship. The other person is keenly attuned to your vulnerabilities. They use morality to manipulate you. Aren't you supposed to be the generous one? You're getting upset over something so trivial? I never thought you were that kind of person. They put you up on a pedestal, casting you as a saint, leaving you no graceful way to step down. And you, in order to preserve that image, feel compelled to keep playing the part and swallow all your frustrations. 3. The third realization you need to embrace is allow yourself to be not so perfect. Your worth isn't defined by how closely you align with society's standards of a good person, but by your wholeness. You carry both kindness and light, as well as anger and darkness. Daring to express anger and say no doesn't mean you become a bad person. It means you become whole. It means you're starting to be honest with yourself. Remember, a truly strong person isn't someone who lacks negative emotions, but someone who can accept and express all their emotions in a healthy way. It's your fixation on being the good person that gives others the power to morally manipulate and control you. For you're not just feeling him, you are becoming him. This is for those who are naturally sensitive and deeply empathetic. You have the gift of easily sensing other people's emotions. But if not used wisely, this gift can turn into a curse, leaving you drowning in the emotional tides of others. One of my clients, we'll call her Emily, is an extremely sensitive and empathetic person. Her best friend had just gone through a breakup. From the day of the breakup, Emily's life was completely taken over. Her friend would call her at 2 a.m. and cry for 2 hours. Even though Emily had an important morning meeting the next day, she didn't dare hang up because she could feel her friend's pain. She believed that if she ended the call, her friend would feel even more hopeless. During work hours, her friend would send long, emotionally draining messages, and Emily would immediately stop what she was doing to comfort her, almost like a therapist. When her friend said she had no appetite, Emily would instantly order her favorite takeout and then anxiously watch her phone until her friend said she had received it and eaten. Only then could Emily finally relax. After a month, it was unclear whether her best friend's mood had improved, but Emily herself was already falling apart. She was suffering from severe insomnia, making frequent mistakes at work, and had even started experiencing heart palpitations and panic attacks. She felt completely overwhelmed by her best friend's sadness, as if she couldn't breathe. I asked her, "Why don't you tell her that you need a break, that you need your own space?" Emily's response was all too typical. She said, "How could I say that? She's so upset. If I bring up my own needs, wouldn't that be too selfish? I can feel her pain, I really can. I just can't bring myself to leave her alone." Emily's issue wasn't empathy. It was emotional enmeshment. In psychology, this refers to a lack of clear emotional boundaries between individuals, where one person's emotional state excessively influences or even dictates another person's emotional state. People with high levels of empathy are especially susceptible to this kind of confusion. You're like an unprotected Wi-Fi network. Anyone can easily connect and upload their emotional viruses. You think you're sharing their feelings, but in reality, you've completely mistaken their issues for your own. You're not being sad with her. You're being sad instead of her. You're not helping her solve her problems. You're trying to carry them for her. This leads to two disastrous consequences. 1. Your own energy gets quickly depleted, leaving you unable to manage your own life. 2. You rob the other person of the opportunity for personal growth. Pain is a catalyst for growth. By trying to save her, you're allowing her to stay in the role of a victim, without needing to learn how to heal herself or face life's challenges. Your empathy has instead become the biggest obstacle to her growth. So, the fourth wisdom you need to master is moving from empathy to compassion. What's the difference between the two? Empathy is, I feel your pain, and your pain becomes my pain. This is a form of merging. Compassion is, I see your pain, I understand your pain, and I'm willing to offer support. But your pain is still yours. My emotions are still mine. This is a form of caring with boundaries. How do you actually do it? Practice emotional decluttering. When a friend is confiding in you, remind yourself, these are her emotions, not mine. I'm here to support her, but I don't need to take them on. You can set time boundaries by saying something like, I'm really happy to talk with you, but I need to rest after 9 p.m. Can we talk for half an hour? You can also set behavioral boundaries. I understand you're feeling upset, but I need to focus on work right now. Can we talk later this evening? It's you, by empathizing without boundaries, who has allowed the other person to unload all their emotional baggage into your world. Learning to separate what's theirs from what's mine is a lifelong lesson for highly empathetic people. 5. Becoming familiar with the inertia of pain. At this point, some might ask, I understand all the reasoning, but I just can't do it. I can't leave the person who keeps draining me. Why? Because sometimes what we fear isn't the pain itself, but the vast unknown that comes after the pain is gone. The term gaslight effect, now a recognized psychological concept, originates from the American TV series Gaslight. It refers to a form of emotional manipulation through the distortion of reality. I'm not talking about the show itself, but rather a variation of this effect that plays out in real life. I know a married couple. The husband is extremely controlling and constantly belittles his wife that he criticized her cooking, mocked her taste in clothes, and said she couldn't even handle the simplest tasks. What was even more frightening was his ability to distort her memories. Even when she clearly remembered him making a promise, he would flatly deny it and say, "Are you sure? Your memory's really getting worse." Over time, she truly began to doubt herself. She started to wonder if she really was that awful, that incompetent, with such a terrible memory. Her confidence was slowly chipped away, and she became more and more reliant on her husband's judgment and decisions. It wasn't that she hadn't thought about leaving, but every time the idea crossed her mind, a deeper fear would take hold of her. What is this fear? It's the fear of, if I leave him, can I survive on my own? Am I really as worthless as he says I am? Is the world out there even more frightening? In this relationship, the pain is certain and clearly defined. Even though she is belittled every day, it's a kind of pain she's familiar with. Leaving means facing an uncertain future alone. That unknown is more terrifying to her than the pain she already knows. This is what psychology refers to as trauma bonding. Victims develop a pathological dependence on an emotional attachment to their abuser. Because while the abuser constantly puts them down, they occasionally offer small moments of kindness. This intermittent reinforcement becomes addictive, leading the victim to mistakenly believe that this is love. The reason we fall into the inertia of being familiar with pain is that our brains are naturally wired to dislike uncertainty. Neuroscientific research shows that uncertain threats activate the amygdala, our brain's emotional center, more intensely than certain threats, making us feel more anxious. In other words, a stable bad relationship may subconsciously feel safer than an unstable but promising future. In that painful pattern, at least you know the rules, understand the role you're supposed to play, and are aware of the upper limit of the pain. But change means letting go of all the familiar scripts and becoming an improvisational actor, which is incredibly demanding. So, the fifth truth you need to face is this. You're not enjoying the pain, you've simply become accustomed to it. And habit is the greatest enemy of change. Sometimes, you allow the other person to keep overstepping boundaries, not because you're weak, but because the feeling of losing control that comes with resistance is even more frightening than the suffocating feeling that comes with compliance. How do you break this pattern? Step 1 isn't to leave right away, but to document reality. Like that wife, when the other person belittles you or twists the facts again, quietly and objectively write down what happened. No emotion, just the facts. For example, on specific date, he said the fish I cooked was too salty. The fact is, he added soy sauce 2 more times himself. On a certain date, he denied agreeing to visit my parents with me over the weekend. But the truth is, we talked on the phone Tuesday night, and he said it himself. This process helps you fight against gaslighting and rebuild your sense of reality. When you're holding a thick stack of evidence, it becomes much harder for the other person to manipulate you. You'll be able to see clearly that the problem isn't you. 2. The second step is to take small acts of resistance. Start with the tiniest things to break your pattern of compliance. For example, if he asks you to get him some water, you can say, "Hold on, let me finish this part first." If he criticizes your clothes, you can calmly look at him and say, "Oh really? But I really like it." These small victories, like snowballs, gradually build up your inner strength and confidence. It's you, out of fear of the unknown future, gave the other person the power to endlessly torment you in the familiar hell you know. Breaking that inertia starts with reclaiming your right to define what reality means. 6. The voluntary surrender of power. You've been waiting for him to change, forgetting that the key has always been in your hands. We've discussed various psychological reasons, and now we've reached the most critical and most painful point. Often, the reason we allow others to repeatedly cross our boundaries is because we gave up our power in the relationship from the very beginning. There is a widely shared story. A young elephant was once tied to a wooden stake with a thin iron chain. As a calf, it wasn't strong enough to break free. It tried many times and failed each time. Eventually, it came to believe that the chain was unbreakable. As the calf grew into a powerful adult elephant, the chain and stake became incredibly weak in comparison. Yet, it never tried to break free again. It continued to stay within that small confined space. It wasn't the chain that held it back, but the belief in its mind that it couldn't escape. This story illustrates the well-known psychological concept of learned helplessness. In relationships, many of us are like that elephant. Maybe because of some negative experiences early in life, or after a few failed attempts at communication at the start of a relationship, we come to believe things like, "That's just how he is, he'll never change," or "This is just the way our relationship is, there's nothing I can do." We place all our hopes for change on the other person. We wait for him to have a change of heart, to apologize first, to one day suddenly realize he should treat us better. We play the role of a helpless victim waiting to be rescued, forgetting that we're actually the ones with the most power to change the situation. I've seen far too many examples like this. A girl complains that her boyfriend never reaches out to her first, and every day she agonizes, waiting for a call or a message that I asked her, "Why don't you take the initiative to reach out to him?" She said, "That would be so embarrassing. The guy is supposed to make the first move." She completely handed over the initiative in the relationship, and then complained about being passive. A wife complained that her husband was like a hands-off manager who never took care of the kids. I asked her, "Have you invited him to get involved? For example, have you clearly told him, 'Tonight, you're in charge of bathing the kids and reading them a story. I need a break?'" She said, "I've said it a few times, but he didn't do it, so I gave up." By giving up, she relinquished the power to set boundaries and expectations, and then complained that there were no rules at home. 6. So, the sixth and most crucial mindset is to reevaluate your sense of power that in any interpersonal relationship. As long as you remain an independent individual, you possess at least 3 fundamental forms of power. 1. The power of expression. You always have the right to express your feelings, needs, and boundaries clearly, calmly, and assertively. Whether the other person listens is up to them, but whether you speak up is up to you. Speaking up is an act of exercising your power. It's a declaration to the universe that I deserve to be taken seriously. More often than not, once you speak up, the situation begins to shift. 2. The power of setting terms. You always have the right to define the rules of engagement for your interactions. This isn't about control, it's about collaboration. You can say, "If you speak to me in that tone again, I will end this conversation." Or, "If you're more than 30 minutes late next time, I'll start without you." You're not giving him orders. You're simply stating your own course of action. This prompts him to think about the consequences of his behavior. The power of walking away. This is your ultimate and most powerful right. Whether it's walking out of a room, ending a conversation, or leaving a relationship entirely. When you realize that no matter how clearly you communicate or set boundaries, the other person still refuses to respect you, you always have the right to walk away. This power is the ultimate foundation of your sense of security that IT tells you that you're not trapped. You always have a choice. The fundamental reason we allow others to overstep our boundaries is that we've forgotten or even willingly surrendered these 3 forms of power. Like that elephant, we're held captive by our own internal sense of powerlessness. So starting today, pull yourself out of the victim script and take your place in the director's chair. Stop asking, "Why is he treating me this way?" and start asking, "How do I choose to respond to his behavior?" It is you, through your belief in learned helplessness, who have given the other person permission to treat you as a powerless, defenseless individual indefinitely. And you can stand up at any time and break free from that imaginary chain. Alright, to recap, today we've delved into 6 deep-rooted reasons why we often, without realizing it, give others the power to overstep our boundaries. 1. What you call selflessness might actually be an emotional investment driven by a desire to be loved. 2. What you call peace might really be a cowardly surrender rooted in a fear of conflict. 3. The good person identity you're so proud of might be the very moral shackle that keeps you trapped. 4. Your strong empathy, without clear boundaries, can turn into an emotional catastrophe. 5. Your attachment to familiar pain stems from a deep fear of the unknown future. 6. And most importantly, you often forget that you've always had the power to speak up, set boundaries, and walk away. These 6 points are like 6 mirrors, reflecting the most hidden corners of our hearts. Recognizing them clearly isn't about self-criticism, it's about self-liberation. Setting boundaries has never been about pushing others away or becoming selfish and indifferent. Quite the opposite. Clear and healthy boundaries are the foundation of all meaningful relationships. They are like a door. You decide when to open it and to whom. They can shield you from uninvited storms and allow you to welcome in the warmth of true sunshine with peace of mind. You're not making demands of others. You're simply honoring yourself. And only someone who knows how to honor themselves can truly earn the respect of others. Finally, I'd like to end today's sharing with a quote from writer Anais Nin that has given me tremendous strength. I hope it lights a spark in you as well. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. If this video has empowered you, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Every video on this channel is created with heart, and we hope it helps us all grow stronger from within. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.